The bridge of the UNSS Indomitable shook as another explosion rippled through the void outside. Admiral Catherine Chen gripped the armrest of her command chair and watched the tactical display with cold, calculating eyes. 3 years of war had taught her to read death in the movement of dots on a screen. "Their command ship is disabled, Admiral," Commander James Okoye reported from his station. His voice was steady despite the chaos around them. "The Korthax fleet is breaking formation. They're trying to retreat." Chen looked at the main view screen. The wreckage of hundreds of ships floated in a graveyard of metal and fire. Human ships. Alien ships. It didn't matter anymore. They were all just coffins now, drifting in the cold darkness near Neptune's orbit. The Battle of Neptune had been raging for 16 hours. 16 hours of hell. The Korthax Confederation had brought their full might to humanity's doorstep. Determined to finish what they started 3 years ago, when they attacked Earth's outer colonies without warning. They came to exterminate. They came to conquer. But humanity had other plans. "Admiral, we have firing solutions on their remaining capital ships," the weapons officer called out. Young Lieutenant Park looked exhausted, her uniform stained with sweat and blood from a minor injury. "We can finish them. We can end this, right now." Chen stood slowly. Her legs ached. Her whole body ached. She had not slept in 2 days. None of them had. She walked to the forward viewport and stared out at the carnage. The Korthax were reptilian creatures, standing nearly 8 feet tall with scales that ranged from deep green to midnight black. They were warriors by culture, conquerors by nature. When they first made contact with humanity, they saw only weak prey. Soft mammals who talked too much about peace and cooperation. They learned differently. The war had been brutal. Earth lost colonies on Titan, Ganymede, and Europa in the first 6 months. Millions died. Human forces were scattered, unprepared, outgunned. But humans adapted. They learned. They fought with a desperation that shocked the Korthax, who expected quick surrender. Now, 3 years later, humanity's combined fleet had finally pushed the enemy back. They had won. Barely. "How many ships do we have left?" Chen asked quietly. Okoye checked his display. 42 combat-capable vessels, Admiral. Another 19 are heavily damaged but stable. The rest. He didn't need to finish. Chen nodded. They had started the battle with 230 ships. The mathematics of war were simple and cruel. And the Korthax? Approximately 70 ships remain in their fleet. But their command structure is broken. High Commander Varkesh's flagship is drifting without power. They're beaten. Admiral, they know it. The tactical officer spoke up. "Admiral, I'm receiving priority communication from Earth Command. They want to know our status and intentions." Chen walked back to her chair but didn't sit. "Put them through. Command channel." The view screen flickered, and the face of Secretary General Amara Okonkwo appeared. The woman looked as tired as Chen felt. Behind her, Chen could see the Emergency Command Center, deep beneath Geneva. The politicians and military leaders who had guided humanity through its darkest hour. "Admiral Chen," the Secretary General said, "congratulations on your victory. The Council is assembled and waiting for your report." "Thank you, ma'am. The Korthax fleet is crippled. We can pursue and destroy them completely. However, our losses have been severe. If we press the attack, we risk losing more ships and more lives." There was a pause. Chen could see other faces in the background, arguing, debating. This was the moment. The decision that would define humanity's future. "Admiral, the military command recommends total destruction of the enemy fleet," the Secretary General said carefully. "They believe it's the only way to ensure Earth's safety. The Korthax have proven they cannot be trusted. They attacked without provocation. They murdered millions of our people. If we let them regroup, they may return stronger." Fina. Chen had expected this. She had been preparing her response for hours. "I understand the military's position, ma'am. But I respectfully disagree. The Secretary General raised an eyebrow. Explain. If we destroy them now, we become what they thought we were. Not defenders, but executioners. We prove that mercy has no place in this galaxy. Chen paused, choosing her words carefully. We have an opportunity here. A chance to show the Korthax and any other species watching that humanity is different. We can offer peace. Real peace. On our terms. Commander Okoye turned in his chair, surprise evident on his face. Around the bridge, other officers stopped what they were doing to listen. The Secretary General looked off-screen, consulting with others. Minutes passed. Finally, she spoke. The Council is divided, Admiral. But the majority agrees with your assessment. We will offer terms. Prepare the communication. Chen felt something loosen in her chest. Relief, perhaps. Or maybe just exhaustion. Yes, ma'am. What terms should I offer? Unconditional ceasefire, immediate withdrawal to pre-war borders, full reparations paid over 50 years, and a demilitarized zone 3 light-years wide between our territories. War criminals will be identified and tried. The Korthax will accept monitoring of their military for the next decade. Understood. I'll transmit immediately. The Secretary General's expression softened slightly. Admiral, you've done well. You've saved humanity. Now, let's see if we can do something harder. Let's see if we can build peace. Earth, command out. The screen went dark. Chen turned to her communications officer. Open a channel to the Korthax command ship. All frequencies. Make sure every ship in their fleet receives this. Channel open, Admiral. Chen took a deep breath. This is Admiral Catherine Chen of the United Nations Space Service, commanding the Earth Defense Fleet. To High Commander Varkesh and all Korthax forces. Your fleet is defeated. Your command ship is disabled. You have lost this battle and this war. However, humanity does not seek your extinction. We offer peace. Cease all hostile actions immediately. Withdraw to your territory, and we will negotiate terms for a lasting peace. You have 1 hour to respond. If you refuse or attempt any hostile action, we will destroy what remains of your fleet. The choice is yours. Chen out. The bridge was silent. Outside, the wreckage continued its slow dance. Inside, humanity waited for an answer. Commander Okoye approached Chen quietly. Admiral, permission to speak freely? Always, James. Are we making a mistake? The Korthax attacked us without warning. They killed millions. They showed us no mercy. Why should we show them any? Chen turned to face her executive officer. Okoye was a good man. A fine officer. He had lost his wife in the attack on Titan Station. His question deserved an honest answer. Because if we don't, we prove them right, Chen said softly. The Korthax think we're weak because we value life. They think compassion is a flaw. If we destroy them now, we become the monsters they claimed we were. We become exactly what we're fighting against. But what if they come back? What if they use this mercy against us? Chen looked out at the stars. Then we'll be ready. And they'll learn that human mercy isn't weakness. It's a choice. A choice we make once. But only once. 43 minutes later, the communication came through. High Commander Varkesh's face appeared on screen. The reptilian commander looked wounded. His scales darkened with blood. One eye swollen shut, but his remaining eye burned with barely contained rage. Admiral Chen, Varkesh hissed, his translator converting his language into English. We accept your terms. But know this. You have not won. You have merely delayed the inevitable. The strong survive. The weak perish. This is the law of the universe. Your mercy today is weakness, and weakness will be punished. Chen kept her expression neutral. Perhaps, Commander, or Perhaps you'll learn that there are different kinds of strength. Safe journey home. And think carefully about whether you want to test humanity's resolve again. Varkesh's screen went dark without another word. Over the next 3 days, the Korthax fleet limped away from human space. They took their dead with them, as much as they could recover. Human ships maintained a careful distance, weapons ready but not fired. The ceasefire held. Commander Okoye supervised the recovery operations from the Indomitable's bridge. They pulled survivors from damaged ships, both human and Korthax. The enemy wounded were treated with the same care as human casualties, then transferred to Korthax vessels for the journey home. "I don't understand them," Lieutenant Park said, as she watched a Korthax soldier being carried to the medical bay. "We're helping them, and they look at us with such hate." Okoye nodded slowly. "They don't understand mercy, Lieutenant. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But we'll show them anyway. Because that's who we are." Admiral Chen stood in her quarters that night, looking at a picture on her desk. Her daughter, Sarah, age 7. She hadn't seen her in 3 years. The picture was taken on Earth, before the war, before everything changed. Sarah would be 10 now. Growing up in a world at war, Chen had fought for 3 years to protect that little girl and billions like her. She had ordered thousands to their deaths to save billions more. She had made choices that would haunt her dreams forever. But she had also chosen mercy when she could have chosen vengeance. She hoped it was the right choice. On the bridge, Commander Okoye watched the last Korthax ship disappear into FTL. He turned to the night shift crew. "Stand down from battle stations, maintain defensive posture, set course for Mars orbit. It's time to go home." The crew cheered. Some cried. Others just sat in stunned silence, unable to believe it was finally over. The war had ended. Peace had begun. But on a distant world, in a massive war chamber filled with Korthax military commanders, High Commander Varkesh stood before the Grand Council. His wounds had been treated, but his pride remained damaged. "They humiliated us," Varkesh growled to the assembled leaders. "They defeated us, and then offered mercy like we were children to be pitied." The Grand Commander, an ancient Korthax with scars covering his entire body, leaned forward. "What do you recommend, Varkesh?" "We accept their peace. We pay their reparations. We withdraw to our borders." Varkesh's eyes glowed with cold hatred. "And then we rebuild. We study them. We learn their weaknesses. And in 10 years, when they have grown comfortable and soft, when they believe their mercy was wisdom, we return. And we show them what the strong do to the weak." The council chamber filled with hissing approval. The Korthax way was the warrior's way. Defeat was temporary. Revenge was eternal. 10 years. The Grand Commander agreed. "We will give them 10 years of peace. Let them think they have won. Let them think their mercy has changed us. And then, we will show them the truth. Peace is for the weak. War is for the strong. And we will be stronger." Varkesh bowed deeply. In 10 years, their mercy will be their doom. Far away, on Earth, Admiral Chen stood before a memorial being constructed in Geneva. Thousands of names were being carved into black stone. The dead, from 3 years of war. She placed her hand on the cold surface and closed her eyes. "We gave them peace," she whispered. "Please let it be enough." But deep in her heart, in the place where instinct lived beyond reason, Catherine Chen knew the truth. She had been a soldier too long to believe in lasting peace with an enemy who valued only strength. The war was over, but the peace was just beginning. And peace, she had learned, could be more dangerous than any battle. Year 2. After the war, Commander James Okoye stood on the observation deck of the new Mars Colony Administration building and watched children play in the reconstructed central dome. Their laughter echoed through the artificial atmosphere, a sound that had been absent for too long. The dome had been destroyed during the war when Korthax raiders attacked the colony. 3,000 people died that day. Okoye's wife, Amara, had been one of them. She was a hydroponics engineer, working in the lower levels when the attack came. They never found her body. Now, 2 years later, Mars was alive again. The domes were rebuilt, stronger than before. Families had returned. Children played. Life continued, as it always did, even after tragedy. "Commander Okoye?" A young voice interrupted his thoughts. He turned to see a girl, maybe 9 years old, with dark skin and curious eyes. She held a data pad and looked nervous. "Yes? I'm writing a report for school about the war. My teacher said you were here during the attack. Can I ask you some questions?" Okoye smiled gently. He had done dozens of these interviews. The children needed to understand what happened. They needed to know why their world had changed. "Of course. What would you like to know? Were you scared?" the girl asked immediately. Okoye thought about lying, about giving her the brave soldier answer. But she deserved the truth. "Yes. I was terrified. Every single day of the war, I was scared. Scared I would die. Scared my friends would die. Scared we would lose everything. But you won," the girl said, confused. "So why were you scared?" "Because winning and surviving are different things. We won the war, but many people didn't survive to see it. Being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means doing what needs to be done even when you are scared." The girl nodded seriously and made notes on her datapad. "Do you think the Korthax will come back?" It was the question everyone asked. The question no one wanted to answer, honestly. "I don't know," Okoye said carefully. "We gave them peace. We hope they will keep it. But we're preparing, just in case they don't." The girl thanked him and ran off to join her friends. Okoye watched her go and wondered what kind of world she would inherit. Would it be one of peace? Or would she grow up to fight the same enemies her parents had fought? He pushed the dark thoughts aside and returned to his duties. Mars' colony needed him. The reconstruction was massive, and every day brought new challenges. But it was good work. Honest work. Building, instead of destroying. Year 5 after the war. Dr. Sarah Kimathi stared at the Korthax scientist sitting across from her and tried to suppress her instinctive fear. Her hands trembled slightly, but she kept them folded in her lap, where he couldn't see. The cultural exchange program had been controversial from the start. Many people on Earth didn't want anything to do with the Korthax. The wounds were too fresh. The anger too deep. But the Unified Earth Council believed that understanding was the path to lasting peace. Sarah had volunteered despite her own history, or perhaps because of it. Her husband and 2 daughters had been on Europa when the Korthax attacked. She never saw them again. For years, she had hated the Korthax with every fiber of her being. She dreamed of revenge. Of seeing their worlds burn the way hers had burned. But hate was exhausting. Revenge solved nothing. So, when the exchange program was announced, Sarah applied. Maybe she couldn't forgive, but she could try to understand. Maybe that would be enough. The Korthax scientist's name was Rethik. He was young by his species' standards. Barely 30 years old. His scales were a lighter green than most Korthax, and he had a curious way of tilting his head when he listened. "Your work on xenobiology is fascinating," Rethik said in careful English. He had been studying human languages for 2 years. "The way you categorize species by chemical composition, rather than physical structure, shows remarkable insight." "Thank you," Sarah replied stiffly. "Your people's work on genetic adaptation is equally impressive." They sat in a neutral station orbiting between human and Korthax space. A place designed for these awkward meetings between former enemies. The station was cold and sterile, like the relationship between their peoples. "May I ask you something personal?" Rethik asked suddenly. Sarah tensed. "You can ask. I may not answer. Why did you volunteer for this program?" "Many humans hate us. I understand why. We killed many of your people. Yet, You chose to meet with us. To learn from us. Why? Sarah was quiet for a long moment. The question was fair. And it deserved an honest answer. Because hate was killing me, she finally said. I lost my family in the war. My husband. My 2 little girls. They were 5 and 7 years old. Every day, I woke up angry. Every night, I went to sleep, wishing your entire species would disappear. It was destroying me from the inside. Rethek's eyes, large and golden, reflected something that might have been sadness. I am sorry for your loss. Words are insufficient, but they are all I have. I don't want your apology, Sarah said. But her voice wasn't harsh, just tired. I want to understand why. Why did your people attack us? Why did they kill children? Why did they start a war with people they knew nothing about? Rethek looked down at his clawed hands. Because we were taught that strength is everything. That the strong conquer and the weak submit. Your people seemed weak to us. You talked about peace and cooperation. These were foreign concepts. We thought we could take what we wanted. And now? Now, I think we were wrong. Strength is not just about physical power or military might. Your people showed a different kind of strength. You defeated us in battle, then offered peace. You could have destroyed us, but you chose mercy. This confused us. This frightened us. More than your weapons. Sarah studied the young Korthax carefully. Do others of your kind think as you do? Rethek's expression darkened. Some, mostly the young, but many of the old commanders, the warriors who fought in the war, they see your mercy as weakness. They believe you will pay for not destroying us when you had the chance. A chill ran down Sarah's spine. Are they planning something? I don't know. I am a scientist, not a warrior. But I hear things. Whispers. The military builds in secret. They tell us it is for defense. But... He trailed off, looking genuinely troubled. Sarah made a mental note to report this conversation to Earth Intelligence. Thank you for your honesty. Over the following months, Sarah and Rethek continued their meetings. Slowly, the stiffness faded. They discussed science, philosophy, even art. Sarah found herself looking forward to their conversations. Rethek was curious, thoughtful, questioning. He represented what the Korthax could be if they moved beyond their warrior culture. She began to hope that maybe, just maybe, peace was possible. Year 7 after the war, Admiral Catherine Chen, now serving as Earth's defense minister, sat in a classified briefing room deep beneath Geneva. The walls were shielded against all known forms of surveillance. What was discussed here could never leave this room. Around the table sat the leaders of Earth's military and intelligence services. Their faces were grim. Show me, Chen ordered. The central hologram flickered to life, displaying images captured by long-range reconnaissance drones. Massive shipyards in orbit around the Korthax homeworld. Factories running at full capacity. Military installations that weren't there a year ago. They're building a fleet, Intelligence Director Marcus Webb said quietly. Chen studied the images with a cold, sinking feeling in her stomach. She had hoped she was wrong. She had wanted to believe in peace. How long until they're ready? 3 years. Maybe less if they accelerate production. And our fleet? General Yuki Tanaka, head of Space Force Operations, brought up Earth's military assets. We have twice the ships we had during the war. Better technology, better training. But if their fleet is as large as these projections suggest, they'll still outnumber us significantly. Chen nodded slowly. We need more time. We need them to think we're complacent. That we believe the peace is real. You want to continue the diplomatic theater? Webb asked. Yes. Maintain all exchange programs. Continue trade negotiations. Keep the channels open. But quietly, I want production increased. I want every shipyard running at maximum capacity. I want new weapons systems fast-tracked, and I want contingency plans for every scenario. The Council won't approve unlimited military spending, Tanaka warned. Many believe the peace is working. Then we don't tell the Council everything, Chen said flatly. We operate under existing budgets. We repurpose civilian infrastructure. We use black programs and classified funds. Whatever it takes. Webb leaned back. You're talking about a major covert operation, Minister. If this gets out, there will be political hell to pay. If it gets out and I'm wrong, I'll resign, Chen said simply. But if I'm right, and we're not prepared, millions will die. I'd rather lose my career than lose Earth. The room was silent. Finally, Tanaka spoke. What are you calling this operation? Chen smiled without humor. Prometheus Protocol. Because we're going to give humanity the fire it needs to survive. And if the Korthax want war again, they're going to burn. The officers around the table nodded. Within days, classified orders went out to military installations across human space. Publicly, Earth continued to pursue peace. Privately, it prepared for war. Year 9, after the war. Sarah Kimathi received the message late at night. It was brief, untraceable, and terrifying. Do not try to find me. Do not respond to this message. They know about our friendship. They know I spoke to you about the military buildup. I am being watched. This will be my last communication. Thank you for showing me that there was another way to live. I wish my people could see what I have seen. Be ready. The storm is coming. Rethik. Sarah sat in her apartment, staring at the message until her eyes burned. She had tried to contact Rethik for weeks, but he hadn't responded to any communication requests. Now she knew why. She reported the message to Earth Intelligence immediately. They came to her apartment within an hour, asking questions, taking statements, analyzing every word. 2 weeks later, through back channels and intelligence sources, they learned the truth. Rethik had been arrested by Korthax military intelligence. He was tried in a closed military tribunal for sympathizing with the enemy and providing intelligence to hostile forces. He was executed 3 days after his trial. Sarah didn't cry at first. The grief was too large, too overwhelming. She simply sat in her apartment, staring at nothing, feeling the last shred of hope die inside her. Rethik had been evidence that the Korthax could change. That peace was possible. That understanding could bridge the gap between species. Now he was dead, killed by his own people for daring to imagine something different. Sarah made a call to the Defense Ministry and asked to speak with Admiral Chen. It took 2 days, but eventually, the call was returned. Dr. Kimathi, Chen said, her face appearing on the screen. I heard about Rethik. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry, Sarah said, and her voice was hard. Just be ready, because they're coming. And this time, mercy will be wasted on them. Chen nodded slowly. We're ready. I promise you, we're ready. Year 10 after the war. The diplomatic summit was scheduled for neutral space, a station specifically built for the occasion. The Korthax requested the meeting, citing a desire to strengthen the bonds of peace and explore enhanced cooperation. Earth accepted, of course. Diplomatically, they had no choice. Privately, Admiral Chen knew exactly what the summit was for. The Korthax were coming to see if Earth was still strong, to probe for weaknesses, to make final assessments before launching their attack. Chen stood in the Defense Ministry Command Center, watching the preparations. Every ship was ready. Every station was armed. Every colony had evacuation plans and hidden defenses. Commander Okoye, now a colonel, entered the room. Long-range sensors are showing unusual activity at the edge of the system. Chen felt her blood run cold, but her expression remained calm. How large? Estimates suggest 300 ships, possibly more. They're holding position just outside our sensor range. Waiting. For what? For the summit. For us to lower our guard. For the perfect moment to strike. Chen walked to the central display and looked at the tactical situation. Earth stood on the edge of war again. But this time, they weren't surprised. This time, they weren't unprepared. She opened a secure channel to all military commands. This is Defense Minister Chen. Authorization code Prometheus Alpha 1. All units are to move to condition. 1 alert status immediately. This is not a drill. Execute Prometheus protocol. All civilians are to be moved to secure locations. All defensive systems are to be activated. Prepare for imminent, hostile action. Across human space, klaxons sounded. Ships that had been disguised as civilian vessels shed their covers and revealed weapons systems. Space stations deployed hidden armor and guns. Mines that had been laid over years activated in defensive patterns. Okoye stood beside Chen. They think they're about to catch us sleeping. Chen smiled, and it was not a kind smile. They're about to learn that humans don't sleep. We wait. And we're very, very patient. On the main screen, the Korthax diplomatic ship approached the neutral station, broadcasting messages of peace and friendship. Behind it, hidden in the darkness of space, 300 warships waited for the signal to attack. Chen activated the communication system. This is Earth Defense Command to all stations and all ships. The enemy is at our door. They came before with arrogance. They come now with deception. But we gave them 10 years. 10 years to choose peace. They chose war instead. So be it. Show them what humanity becomes when mercy is rejected. Show them what we built while they plotted. Show them that we remember every life they took, every child they killed, every home they destroyed. And show them that this time, there will be no mercy, only justice. Chen out. The wait was over. The storm was about to break, and Earth was ready. The Korthax armada dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of human space, with all the confidence of predators returning to familiar hunting grounds. 347 warships, the largest fleet the Korthax Confederation had ever assembled, materialized in the darkness between stars. On the bridge of the flagship Eternal Conquest, High Commander Varkesh stood tall and proud. His scales had darkened with age, and new scars crossed his face from the battles he had fought in the 10 years since Neptune. But his eyes still burned with the same hatred, the same hunger for revenge. Status report, Varkesh commanded. His tactical officer checked the displays. All ships accounted for, Commander. Weapons systems at full power. No defensive response detected from human space. The diplomatic ship is still broadcasting from the neutral station. They suspect nothing. Varkesh's mouth curved in what might have been a smile among his species. Of course they suspect nothing. They are weak. They believe in peace and mercy, and other such foolish concepts. They gave us 10 years to think about our defeat. Instead, we used it to prepare for their destruction. He activated the fleet-wide communication system. Warriors of the Korthax Confederation, hear me. 10 years ago, we suffered humiliation at the hands of these soft mammals. They defeated us in battle and then made the mistake of showing us mercy. They thought we would learn peace. Instead, we learned their weaknesses. Today, we return that mercy with death. Today, we show them the true law of the universe. The strong survive. The weak perish. For the glory of Korthax. NP. Forthax. Throughout the fleet, warriors roared their approval. They had waited 10 years for this moment. 10 years of shame and anger. Now, they would wash it away. With human blood. Set course for their outer colonies, Varkesh ordered. We will start with Titan Station. It is lightly defended. Primarily a civilian mining operation. We will crush it quickly and use the momentum to push inward to Earth itself. By the time they organize a defense, we will be at their homeworld. The armada moved forward, a wall of death sliding through the black. They reached Titan Station 6 hours later. The station orbited Saturn's largest moon, a massive structure of metal and glass that processed ice from Titan's surface into water and oxygen for the colonies. According to Korthak's intelligence, it had minimal military presence. A few patrol boats, perhaps a small garrison. Nothing that could stand against the might of the fleet. "Open a channel to the station," Varkesh ordered. "Let them hear our words before they die." The communication link opened. Varkesh's face appeared on every screen throughout Titan Station. "Humans of Titan Station. This is High Commander Varkesh of the Korthak's Confederation. You showed us mercy 10 years ago. You thought it would teach us peace. Instead, it taught us that you are weak, that your compassion is a flaw to be exploited. We return to your space now, and we bring only death and destruction. This is how the strong respond to weakness. Surrender immediately, and your deaths will be quick. Resist, and you will beg for the mercy you once showed us." The response came from an older man with gray hair and tired eyes. Station Commander David Chen, Admiral Chen's younger brother, looked at the Korthak's commander with no fear in his expression. "Commander Varkesh, this is Station Commander Chen. We received your message. We have a response for you." Varkesh waited, expecting pleas for mercy or desperate offers of surrender. Commander Chen smiled coldly. "My sister sends her regards. She said to tell you that humans gave you peace once. But only once. You made your choice. Now, live with the consequences." Titan Station out. The communication cut off. Varkesh felt a moment of confusion before his tactical officer shouted in alarm. "Commander, the station is powering up weapons. Massive energy signatures across the entire structure. Impossible," Varkesh snarled. "It's a mining station. It has no weapons." But even as he spoke, panels across Titan Station's surface slid open. What had appeared to be civilian infrastructure revealed its true nature. Railgun batteries, missile ports, energy cannons. All hidden in plain sight for years. All aimed at the Korthak's fleet. "Evasive action," Varkesh screamed, but it was too late. Titan Station opened fire with everything it had. The first volley caught the Korthak's vanguard completely by surprise. 15 ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. 20 more took critical damage as railgun slugs moving at relativistic speeds punched through shields and armor like they were paper. The station's commander, David Chen, stood in the central control room and watched the battle displays with satisfaction. He had spent 10 years preparing for this moment. The station looked like a civilian operation on the surface, but underneath, it was a fortress. Every miner was a trained soldier. Every cargo container held weapons. Every ice processing facility was actually a weapons battery. "Focus fire on their capital ships," Chen ordered calmly. "Don't let them regroup. Make them pay for every meter of space." The Korthak's fleet tried to return fire, but they were disorganized, caught off guard. More ships fell to the station's relentless barrage. Varkesh screamed orders, trying to restore discipline to his shocked fleet. "All ships, concentrate fire on that station. Destroy it. Destroy it now." The Korthak's fleet finally organized enough to return effective fire. Hundreds of energy beams and missiles converged on Titan Station. The station's shields flared bright, held for several seconds, then collapsed. Explosions rippled across the structure. Commander Chen felt the station shaking apart around him. He opened a fleet-wide channel to Earth forces. "This is Titan Station. We are heavily damaged and cannot hold, but we've taken 47 enemy ships with us. Not bad for a mining station. Tell my sister I did my duty." Chen out. He closed the channel and turned to his crew. "All hands. Abandon station. Get to the escape pods. Move." The crew ran for the evacuation points. Commander Chen stayed at his post, manually firing the remaining weapons, buying time for his people to escape. The station groaned and shuddered as more Korthak's fire tore through it. With his last breath, David Chen targeted the station's reactor for overload. If he was going to die, he would take more of the enemy with him. Titan Station exploded in a flash of light that outshone Saturn itself. The blast caught 3 Korthax ships that had moved too close, destroying them instantly and damaging a dozen more. Varkesh stared at the expanding debris field where the station had been. His fleet had lost 60 ships. 60 ships to a mining station. This was not supposed to happen. Status of the fleet? He asked quietly. 287 ships operational, Commander. Many have damage. Casualties are heavy. Varkesh forced himself to think. This was wrong. Everything was wrong. The humans were supposed to be unprepared, soft from 10 years of peace. Instead, they had turned a civilian station into a deadly trap. Move forward, he ordered. The other targets must be less defended. We continue as planned. But doubt had entered his mind for the first time. And doubt, in war, could be as deadly as any weapon. The pattern repeated across the outer system. Every station the Korthax attacked turned out to be armed. Every civilian, mining ship, carried torpedoes. Every cargo vessel was actually a disguised warship. The humans had spent 10 years building a defensive network that looked peaceful, but was designed for war. The Korthax fleet pushed forward, but they bled ships with every engagement. What was supposed to be an easy sweep to Earth became a grinding battle of attrition. On Earth, in the Defense Command Center, Admiral Catherine Chen watched the tactical displays with cold satisfaction. Every station they lost hurt. Every casualty was a person with a name, a family, a life. But they were taking the enemy with them. And more importantly, they were buying time. Prometheus Protocol is fully active, Colonel Okoye reported. All hidden fleets are deploying. The shipyards have released the reserve forces. We have 412 ships moving to intercept the enemy. Chen nodded. Where will we meet them? Current projections suggest the Jupiter orbital space. They'll reach there in 18 hours. Our fleet can be in position in 16. Good. Send the order. All ships are to converge on Jupiter. We end this there. Around her, the command center buzzed with activity. Officers coordinated fleet movements, communicated with civilian authorities, managed the logistics of war. This was what they had prepared for. This was why she had spent 10 years building weapons while pretending to pursue peace. On screen, a communication request came through from the Korthax flagship. Varkesh's face appeared, and Chen allowed herself a small smile of recognition. He looked older, angrier, but it was the same reptilian commander who had surrendered 10 years ago. Admiral Chen, Varkesh hissed, you deceived us. You claimed to want peace while you prepared for war. No, Commander, Chen replied calmly. We gave you peace. We offered it genuinely. You're the one who chose war. We simply prepared for the choice you would make. Because unlike you, we learn from our mistakes. You have lost many stations, many lives. Surrender now, and we will show mercy. Chen laughed, and it was a harsh, bitter sound. You don't understand mercy, Commander. You think it means weakness. But mercy is a choice, and we made it once. When you returned with an armada, you showed us that mercy was wasted on your kind. So we won't make that mistake again. Then you will die, Varkesh promised. Maybe, Chen acknowledged. But you'll die first. And if we do fall, we'll make sure the whole galaxy knows what happened. Every species will learn that the Korthax cannot be trusted, that they abuse mercy and honor only strength. You'll become pariahs. Even if you destroy Earth, you'll lose everything that matters. Varkesh's expression shifted slightly. That threat clearly bothered him, in a way military threats did not. We will see, he said finally, and cut the communication. Chen turned to her staff. Time to Jupiter? 15 hours. Then we have 15 hours to prepare. I want every ship armed with our best weapons. I want every captain to understand that this is not just a battle for Earth. This is a message to the entire galaxy. The Korthax came to our home with overwhelming force, expecting easy victory. We're going to show them and everyone watching that humanity doesn't break. We bend, we adapt, but we don't break. She paused, looking at each person in the room. My brother died at Titan Station today. He knew he wouldn't survive, but he did his duty anyway. Thousands more have died buying us time. Now it's our turn. Now we honor their sacrifice by winning this fight. All ships, full speed to Jupiter. It's time to remind the Korthax why they lost the last war, and why they'll lose this one. The order went out across human space. 412 warships changed course and accelerated toward Jupiter. They were sleek and deadly, equipped with technologies that didn't exist 10 years ago. AI-assisted targeting systems. Railguns with twice the range of the previous generation. Energy shields that could absorb tremendous punishment. Drone swarms that fought with mechanical precision. These were not the desperate, cobbled-together fleet that fought at Neptune. These were ships designed by an entire species that had spent 10 years preparing for exactly this moment. Colonel Okoye stood beside Admiral Chen and looked at the tactical display showing both fleets converging on Jupiter. "Are we ready?" he asked quietly. Chen thought of her brother, dying in the explosion of Titan Station. She thought of all the people who had died in the First War. She thought of the peace they had tried to build, the mercy they had shown, and how it had been thrown back in their faces. "Yes," she said simply. "We're ready. And this time, there will be no mercy. Only justice." The two fleets raced toward Jupiter, toward a battle that would decide the fate of both species. In the darkness between worlds, war was coming, and humanity was done offering peace. The Battle of Jupiter began in silence, as all space battles do. No sound carried through the vacuum, only light and death moving through the darkness. Admiral Catherine Chen stood on the bridge of the UNSS Prometheus, humanity's new flagship. The ship was massive, twice the size of the old Indomitable, bristling with weapons that represented 10 years of focused development. Around her, the second defended, the human fleet spread out in a formation that had been practiced thousands of times in simulation. Enemy fleet approaching optimal firing range, the tactical officer reported. 287 ships. They're maintaining standard Korthax battle formation. Chen smiled slightly. Standard formation. The Korthax were following the same tactical doctrine they had used 10 years ago. They hadn't adapted, hadn't evolved. They simply built more ships and expected that to be enough. They were about to learn otherwise. "All ships. This is Admiral Chen. Hold formation. Wait for my command." The Korthax fleet advanced with confidence. Despite their losses at the outer stations, they still had numbers on their side. High Commander Varkesh had reorganized his forces and now pushed forward with the certainty of inevitable victory. On the Eternal Conquest, Varkesh studied the human fleet with satisfaction. They're outnumbered. They know they cannot win, so they wait to die. With dignity. How pathetic. All ships, prepare to fire. We will sweep them aside and move on to Earth. But his tactical officer looked concerned. "Commander, their formation is unusual. They're not clustering their capital ships. They're spread thin with smaller vessels between them." "Cowardice," Varkesh dismissed. "They're trying to maximize shield coverage. It won't help them. Fire at will." The Korthax fleet opened fire. Thousands of energy beams and missiles streaked toward the human line. The attack should have devastated the forward ships, overwhelming their shields and breaking their formation. Instead, something happened that made every Korthax commander freeze in confusion. Small ships that had been spread throughout the human formation suddenly accelerated to impossible speeds. They moved in patterns no pilot could execute, zigging and zagging in ways that seemed to defy physics. Most of the Korthax fire missed completely. The few shots that connected hit shields that absorbed the damage and held. "What are those ships?" Varkesh demanded. His officer checked the data. They appear to be drone fighters, Commander. Automated. No life signs. And they're coordinating their movements with computer precision. It's like they're all controlled by a single intelligence. Admiral Chen watched the drone swarms do exactly what they were designed to do. Each drone was controlled by a sophisticated AI that could react faster than any biological pilot. But the true advantage was their coordination. A central tactical AI managed all 4,000 drones as a single entity, creating a defensive screen that could adapt in real time to incoming fire. Launch Phase 2, Chen ordered calmly. From behind the drone screen, the human capital ships opened fire. But not with traditional weapons. Instead, they launched thousands of additional drones, these ones armed with penetrator missiles. The missile drones accelerated to incredible speeds and dove into the Korthax formation. Their AI guidance systems locked onto specific targets, analyzing shield frequencies, identifying weak points, calculating optimal attack vectors, all in fractions of a second. The first wave of missiles hit the Korthax vanguard. Shields flickered and failed under the concentrated assault. Hulls cracked, ships exploded. In the first 30 seconds of combat, the Korthax lost 20 ships. Varkesh stared at his tactical display in disbelief. How? How are they doing this? Their targeting is too precise, Commander. Their coordination is perfect. They're not fighting like individuals. They're fighting like a hive mind. And that was exactly what they were doing. Every human ship, every drone, every weapon system was linked through a quantum communication network that allowed instantaneous coordination. The AI systems didn't just control individual units. They controlled the entire fleet. As a single organism, each part working in perfect harmony with the others. It was technology the Korthax didn't have. Technology that made numbers less important than coordination. All ships, focus fire on their command vessel, Varkesh ordered desperately. If we can destroy their flagship, we can break their coordination. The Korthax fleet turned its attention to the Prometheus. Hundreds of ships concentrated their fire on Chen's position. It was enough firepower to vaporize a small moon. The Prometheus's shields flared bright under the assault. Alarms blared across the bridge as the defensive systems struggled to absorb the damage. But before the shields could fail, something unexpected happened. 20 human cruisers moved into position around the Prometheus, their shields overlapping with the flagships. They created a layered defensive shell, each ship absorbing part of the incoming fire. When one ship's shields weakened, it rotated out, and another took its place. A perfect defensive rotation that no human crew could coordinate manually. But the AI could. The AI made it look easy. Shields holding at 60%, the defensive officer reported. The rotation protocol is working perfectly. Chen nodded. Target their command ship. All capital ships. Concentrate fire. Let's see how they handle their own medicine. The human dreadnoughts fired in unison. Massive railgun slugs moving at a significant fraction of light speed streaked across the battlefield. The Korthax flagship's shields absorbed the first volley, but the second and third hit home. Armor cracked. Atmosphere vented into space. The Eternal Conquest shuddered under the assault, but remained intact. On his bridge, Varkesh felt the ship shake around him. Damage report. Just one. Shields down to 30%, Commander. Hull breaches on decks 5 through 9. Weapons. Systems at 70% capacity. Varkesh's claws dug into the armrest of his command chair. This wasn't supposed to happen. The humans were supposed to be weak, unprepared, easy prey. Instead, they fought with a coordination and technology that was terrifying in its efficiency. All ships, break formation, Varkesh ordered. Engage in individual combat. Don't give them large targets. But breaking formation was exactly what the human AI had been waiting for. As the Korthax ships scattered, the human fleet adapted instantly. The drones swarmed, picking off isolated targets. The capital ships focused their fire on groups of enemy vessels, overwhelming their defenses. It became a slaughter. Admiral Chen watched the tactical display with no satisfaction, only cold determination. Okoye. Prepare boarding teams. I want prisoners. I want intelligence. We need to know if there are more fleets coming. Colonel James Okoye, commanding the Marine contingent, nodded sharply. Target? Their command ship. Varkesh is on that vessel. I want him alive, if possible. Okoye grinned fiercely. Understood, Admiral. Assault teams. You heard the Admiral. We're going to board the enemy flagship. Non-lethal weapons where possible, but protect yourselves first. Move out. The human assault ships were small, fast, and heavily armored. They launched from the Prometheus and dove toward the crippled Eternal Conquest, dodging defensive fire with the same AI-assisted precision that guided everything else in the human fleet. They latched onto the Korthax flagship's hull and burned through with cutting lasers. Marines in powered armor poured into the ship, moving with tactical precision that came from years of training and real-time AI coordination through their helmet systems. The Korthax crew fought back desperately. They were warriors by culture, and they wouldn't surrender easily. The fighting inside the ship was brutal and close quarters, but the human Marines had better equipment, better coordination, and they were fighting with the controlled fury of people who remembered what the Korthax had done 10 years ago. Colonel Okoye led his team toward the bridge. They fought through corridor after corridor, clearing each section with efficient violence. His helmet AI highlighted enemies, tracked ammunition, coordinated with other teams. It was like fighting with a perfect tactical awareness that would have been impossible before. They reached the bridge to find it heavily defended. Varkesh had pulled his personal guard back to make a last stand. 20 of the Korthax's best warriors, armed with energy weapons and close combat claws that could tear through metal. Suppression fire, Okoye ordered. His team laid down a barrage that forced the Korthax defenders into cover. Then Okoye did something that surprised everyone. He stopped firing and activated his external speakers. Hi, Commander Varkesh. I am Colonel James Okoye of Earth Defense Forces. Your ship is crippled. Your fleet is broken. You have lost this battle, just as you lost the battle 10 years ago. But I'm offering you the same choice my admiral offered you then. Surrender now, and you'll be treated as prisoners of war. We don't want to kill you if we don't have to. Ender. There was a long silence. Then, Varkesh's voice echoed through the corridor, filled with rage and disbelief. You offer mercy? Again? After we came to exterminate you? After we killed your people? What kind of species offers mercy twice? Okoye thought about his wife, dead on Mars. He thought about all the people who had died in both wars. He thought about how easy it would be to simply kill every Korthax on this ship. The kind of species that's better than you, Okoye said simply. We don't kill when we don't have to. That's not weakness, Commander. That's strength. That's what separates us from you. Now choose. Surrender or die. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, Korthax warriors began to stand up. Weapons lowered. One by one, they surrendered. Finally, Varkesh himself emerged from the bridge, his scales dark with rage and shame, but his weapons holstered. Okoye took him into custody personally. You made the right choice, Commander. Varkesh stared at the human with his golden eyes. I don't understand you. Any of you. We came to destroy your species. We killed thousands. And still you show mercy. Why? Because that's who we are, Okoye said. And if we became like you, then you would have won, even if we destroyed every ship in your fleet. Now, you're going to tell us everything. Are there more fleets? More attacks planned? Because if there are, this mercy ends. Earth is done being patient. Varkesh was silent as the Marines led him away to a holding cell. Around them, the human fleet continued to mop up the remaining Korthax ships. The battle was essentially over. Of the 287 ships that entered Jupiter space, fewer than 40 remained combat capable. and those were in full retreat, trying desperately to reach FTL range. Admiral Chen made a decision. Let them run. I want survivors to carry the message back to their homeworld. I want every Korthax to know what happened here. Let them tell the story of how they came with death and destruction, and humanity returned it 100-fold. The retreating Korthax ships disappeared into FTL, carrying news of the disaster. The Battle of Jupiter was over. Humanity had won decisively. But as Chen stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, looking at the debris field and the casualty reports, she felt no joy. Victory in war was never clean. They had lost 43 ships. Thousands of crew members would never go home. What now? Admiral? Colonel Okoye asked, returning to the bridge after securing the prisoners. Chen looked at the star charts, at the route that led to Korthax space. Now we make sure this never happens again. Prepare the fleet. We're going to Korthax space, and we're going to end this war permanently. Okoye's eyes widened. You mean to invade their territory? I mean to make them understand, once and forever, that humanity is done being attacked. That mercy is a gift we give once, not a weakness to exploit. We're going to their homeworld, and we're going to dictate terms on their soil. That's the only way this ends. Around the bridge, officers exchanged glances. This was unprecedented. Humanity had never been the aggressor, never taken the fight to enemy territory. But the old rules didn't apply anymore. Prepare the fleet, Chen ordered again. We leave for Korthax space in 12 hours, and this time, we're bringing enough force that they'll never dare to threaten us again. The human fleet entered Korthax space 3 weeks after the Battle of Jupiter. 200 ships, moving in perfect formation, broadcasting their presence on all frequencies. They weren't sneaking. They weren't hiding. They wanted the Korthax to know they were coming. On the homeworld of Korthax Prime, panic spread like wildfire. The survivors from Jupiter had brought back tales of devastating defeat. Of weapons they couldn't counter. Of coordination they couldn't match. Of humans who fought with a cold, calculated fury that was somehow more terrifying than rage. The Grand Council convened in emergency session. The massive chamber was filled with the military and political leaders of the entire Korthax Confederation. They had ruled over dozens of worlds for centuries, conquering every species they encountered. But now, for the first time in their history, an enemy fleet was approaching their homeworld. The Grand Commander, ancient and scarred, stood before the assembly. His scales were nearly black with age, and his voice carried the weight of authority. The humans are coming, he said simply. High Commander Varkesh's fleet has been destroyed. Only 37 ships escaped. The humans now approach our space with overwhelming force. We must decide how to respond. A younger commander stood up, his scales bright red with anger. We fight. We gather every ship from every world. We cannot allow these soft mammals to dictate terms to us. But another voice spoke up, this one belonging to an intelligence officer. We have analyzed the battle data from Jupiter. The humans have technology we don't understand. Artificial intelligence that coordinates their entire fleet. Weapons with twice the range of ours. Defenses that can adapt in real time. And most importantly, they learned from the first war. They studied us. They prepared for every tactic we might use. If we fight them now, we will lose. Then what do you suggest? The red-scaled commander demanded. That we surrender? That we bow to these creatures? I suggest we survive, the intelligence officer said quietly. We attacked them twice. Twice they defeated us. If we attack again, they may not show mercy a third time. They may decide that the only way to be safe is to exterminate us completely. The Grand Commander raised a clawed hand for silence. Bring in the prisoner. Guards escorted High Commander Varkesh into the chamber. The former fleet commander looked broken, his scales dull, his eyes downcast. He had been returned to Korthax space by the humans as a gesture, or perhaps as a warning. Tell the council what you told me, the Grand Commander ordered. Varkesh spoke quietly. his voice lacking its usual arrogance. They could have killed me. All of us. They boarded my flagship and had us at their mercy. But they chose to take prisoners instead. They treated our wounded. They even gave us enough supplies to make the journey home. And Admiral Chen sent a message with me. What message? The Grand Commander asked. Varkesh looked up, and his eyes held something the Korthax rarely felt. Fear. She said that humanity has shown mercy twice. Once after the first war, and once after the second. But there will not be a third time. She said that if we ever threaten Earth again, if we ever attack human colonies, if we ever show aggression toward any human ship, they will not show mercy. They will show extinction. And she said to tell you that every species in the galaxy will be watching what happens next, that how you respond will determine whether the Korthax survive as a species or disappear into history. The chamber fell silent. The weight of those words settled over the assembled leaders like a physical thing. The Grand Commander spoke again. The humans are 3 days from orbital range of our homeworld. What are their demands? Varkesh handed over a data chip. It's all here. Their terms are not negotiable. 7, sig, asway, dadago. The Grand Commander read through the terms, his expression growing darker with each line. But there was something else in his eyes too. Not just anger, understanding, perhaps even respect. These terms are harsh, he said finally. But they are not extinction. They offer us a path forward, a humiliating path, but a path nonetheless. The red-scaled commander stood again. We cannot accept this. It is better to die with honor than live in shame. The Grand Commander's eyes flashed. You speak of honor? We attacked a peaceful species twice without provocation. We killed their civilians. We broke a treaty we agreed to. Where is the honor in that? The humans showed us mercy when they could have destroyed us. They showed us mercy again when they could have executed all the prisoners from Jupiter. And still, some of you speak of fighting them. This is not honor. This is stupidity. He stood to his full height, his voice carrying throughout the chamber. I have seen 200 cycles of war. I have conquered 17 species, and I tell you now, the humans are unlike any species we have ever encountered. They are not weak because they show mercy. They are strong enough to choose mercy, but they are also strong enough to destroy us if we force their hand. The question is not whether we can fight them. The question is whether we want to survive. The debate raged for hours. But in the end, the decision was inevitable. The Korthax had no choice. They would accept Earth's terms. When the human fleet arrived at Korthax Prime, they found no defensive formations waiting for them. Instead, they received a transmission requesting a meeting. Admiral Chen agreed. The meeting took place on a neutral transport between the human fleet and Korthax Prime. Admiral Chen arrived with Colonel Okoye and a small security detail. The Korthax sent their Grand Commander and a diplomatic team. The two groups faced each other across a conference table. For a long moment, no one spoke. The Grand Commander studied Admiral Chen with his ancient eyes. You could destroy our homeworld, he said finally. Your fleet is in position. We could not stop you. Yet you offer terms instead. Why? Chen leaned forward slightly. Because destruction is easy, Grand Commander. Any species can kill. But building something that lasts, creating a peace that serves both sides, that's difficult. That requires strength of a different kind. Your terms are harsh. You would dissolve our military. You would try our commanders as war criminals. You would restructure our government with your oversight. These are the demands of conquerors. No, Chen said firmly. These are the demands of a species that's tired of being attacked. Your people have proven twice that they cannot be trusted with military power. You use it to conquer and kill, so we're taking it away. But we're not exterminating you. We're not enslaving you. We're giving you a chance to become something better." The Grand Commander was silent for a moment. "And if we refuse?" Chen's expression hardened. "Then this fleet will systematically destroy every military installation on your homeworld and every colony world you control. We will eliminate your capacity to wage war. And we will establish military stations throughout your territory to ensure you never threaten anyone again. You can accept these terms and maintain some dignity, or we can impose them by force. The choice is yours." Colonel Okoye spoke up, his voice carrying the weight of personal loss. "My people have died twice, defending our homes from your aggression. I watched my wife die in the first war. I've lost friends and comrades in this war. Every person in this fleet has lost someone. We're done being patient. We're done being understanding. You came to our home with death and destruction. We returned with justice. Now accept it or face the consequences." The Grand Commander looked at his advisors, then back at the humans. Finally, he stood and gave what passed for a bow among his species. "We accept your terms. The Korthax Confederation surrenders unconditionally. We will comply with all requirements. We ask only that our civilians be spared and that we be treated with the dignity any defeated people deserve." Chen stood as well. "You will be treated fairly and according to the laws of war. Civilians will not be harmed. Those who committed war crimes will face justice, but those who were simply following orders will be allowed to return home. We're not here for revenge, Grand Commander. We're here to ensure this never happens again." The formal surrender was signed 3 days later. The Korthax military was dissolved. War criminals were identified and placed in custody. A human administrative presence was established to oversee the transition to a new government structure. High Commander Varkesh was tried for war crimes. The evidence was overwhelming. He had ordered attacks on civilian targets. He had refused to take prisoners. He had violated the terms of the first peace treaty with full knowledge and intention. He was found guilty and sentenced to life imprisonment. As the verdict was read, Varkesh spoke his last words as a free being. "You may have won this war, humans. But you have not changed what we are. Warriors do not become peaceful farmers simply because you wish it. The Korthax will remember. And someday, somehow, we will rise again." Admiral Chen was present at the trial. She looked at Varkesh with something like pity. "Perhaps you're right," she said. "Perhaps your people will never truly embrace peace, but your grandchildren might. Or their grandchildren. We're not trying to change you, Commander. We're trying to give the next generation a choice. Something you never gave them. Now you'll spend the rest of your life thinking about that." Years passed. The Korthax territory was transformed. The military infrastructure was dismantled and converted to civilian use. Weapons factories became manufacturing centers. Warships were scrapped, and the materials used to build hospitals and schools. It wasn't easy. Many Korthax resented the human presence. Dr. Sarah Kimathi returned to Korthax space. She had sworn she would never see another Korthax after Rethek's death. But when the call came for volunteers to help with the transition, she couldn't refuse. She established an educational exchange program and named it the Rethek Institute, in honor of the young scientist who had died for daring to imagine peace. The first students were angry, resentful Korthax youth who saw the program as indoctrination. But Sarah didn't try to make them love humanity. She simply taught them that there were alternatives to violence. That strength could come from knowledge, from cooperation, from building instead of destroying. One day, 5 years after the war ended, a young Korthax female approached her after class. "Dr. Kimathi, I wanted to ask you something." "Of course. Why did you come here? After what we did to your people? After what we did to your family?" Sarah was quiet for a moment. She thought about her husband and daughters, gone for 15 years now. The pain never truly went away. but it had changed into something she could carry. "I came here because someone has to break the cycle," Sarah said. "Your people killed mine. My people killed yours. That could go on forever. Each generation seeking revenge for the last. Or we can decide that it ends here. That we choose something different. I can't bring back my family. But maybe I can help make sure other families don't have to go through what I went through." The young Korthax looked at her with something like wonder. "You, humans, are strange. But maybe that's not a bad thing." Sarah smiled. "No, maybe it's not." Colonel James Okoye retired from the military and returned to Mars. The colony had grown in the years since the war. The domes were larger. The population had tripled. Children played in parks that had been battlefields. He stood at a memorial one day, looking at the names carved in stone. His wife's name was there, along with thousands of others. So many dead, but also so many living. The children he watched playing would grow up in a galaxy where humanity had proven itself. Not as conquerors, but as something rarer. As people who could win wars, but chose peace when possible. A teenager approached him, maybe 16 years old. "Sir, are you Colonel Okoye?" "I am, or I was. Just call me James now. I'm writing a report for school about the wars. Can I ask you something?" Okoye smiled. "Was it worth it? All the fighting, all the death. Did it change anything?" Okoye looked at the memorial, then at the thriving colony around them. "Yes. It changed everything. We proved that humans don't have to be victims, that we can defend ourselves when necessary, but we also proved that we don't have to become monsters to survive. We can be strong and merciful. We can win and still offer peace. That's the legacy of those wars. That's what all these people died to protect." The teenager nodded thoughtfully and walked away. Okoye watched him go and thought about the future. The galaxy had learned something important. Humanity was not to be trifled with. But more importantly, humanity offered something different. A path that wasn't just about survival or conquest. A path that balanced strength with compassion. Admiral Catherine Chen stood before the memorial wall in Geneva 10 years after the Second War ended. 20 years since the first shot was fired. She was older now, her hair gray, her face lined with the weight of command. She had retired from active duty, but remained as an advisor to the Earth Defense Council. The wall bore tens of thousands of names. Her brother, David, was there. So many others. Friends, comrades, strangers she never met, but who died under her command. She touched the engraving at the base of the memorial. New words had been added after the Second War. "We gave you peace. You returned with death. We returned with justice." It was the truth. Simple and stark. A young officer approached her, recently graduated from the academy. "Admiral Chen, I wanted to thank you. My grandparents survived the First War because of decisions you made. I exist because you chose mercy when you could have chosen vengeance." Chen smiled softly. "Thank you. But mercy isn't weakness. Never forget that. We showed mercy because we were strong enough to choose it. And when that mercy was rejected, we were strong enough to enforce peace. Both are necessary." "Yes, ma'am." Chen looked at the young officer, so eager and idealistic. "Tell me something. What do they teach about the wars now? How do they explain what happened?" The officer thought for a moment. "They teach us that humanity faced a choice. We could become victims, or we could become monsters. Instead, we became something else. We became people who fight when we must, but who always try to build something better afterward. They say, that's what makes us human." Chen nodded slowly. "That's a good lesson. Remember it when you face your own difficult choices, and you will face them. Peace is never permanent. It has to be maintained, protected, sometimes fought for. But it's always worth the effort. Across the galaxy, Other species watched and learned. The story of humanity and the Korthax spread. It became a cautionary tale for aggressive species and a source of hope for peaceful ones. A phrase entered common usage in galactic trade languages. When someone spoke of conflict resolution, of showing mercy, of choosing peace over vengeance, they would say, "Remember the humans," because humanity had done something rare in galactic history. They had won decisively, twice, against an implacable enemy. They could have exterminated the Korthax. They could have enslaved them. Instead, they offered a path to coexistence. Harsh, yes. Demanding, certainly. But a path, nonetheless. And the Korthax, grudgingly at first but more willingly as time passed, took that path. The warrior culture didn't disappear overnight, but it changed. Young Korthax grew up learning that there were different kinds of strength. That building could be as challenging as destroying. That cooperation could achieve things conquest never could. 30 years after the Second War, a Korthax trade delegation visited Earth. They came to negotiate economic partnerships, to establish cultural exchanges, to discuss scientific collaboration. The delegation leader was a middle-aged Korthax named Vethrak, son of Rethik, the scientist who had died trying to prevent the Second War. He stood before the memorial wall in Geneva with Dr. Sarah Kamathi, now elderly but still running the Rethik Institute. "My father believed this was possible," Vethrak said quietly, looking at the names. "He died for that belief. For years, I hated him for it. I thought he was a traitor, but now I understand. He saw what we could become if we chose differently." Sarah placed a hand on his shoulder. "Your father was brave. Braver than most soldiers. It takes more courage to stand against your own culture than to follow it. I teach my children about him now," Vethrak said. "And about humans. I tell them that humans are the only species I know who are equally dangerous when they show mercy and when they seek vengeance. The trick is never making them choose the latter." Sarah smiled. "That's the truest thing anyone's ever said about us." They stood together in silence, human and Korthax, before a memorial to the dead of 2 wars. The wars were over. The peace was holding. And slowly, painfully, 2 species were learning to coexist. It wasn't perfect. There were still tensions, still resentments, still those on both sides who couldn't forgive or forget, but it was peace. Built not on trust, which came slowly, but on mutual respect. The Korthax respected human strength. Humans respected Korthax determination to rebuild, and in that respect, in that hard-won understanding, something new was growing. Not friendship, perhaps. Not yet. But the possibility of friendship. The foundation of something better. Admiral Chen died peacefully in her sleep at age 87, 35 years after the end of the Second War. Her funeral was attended by dignitaries from across human space, and, in a moment that would have seemed impossible decades earlier, a delegation of Korthax officials attended as well. They stood respectfully as her coffin was carried past. One of them, a senior diplomat, spoke quietly to the human official beside him. She was a great warrior. And a greater peacemaker. Your species was fortunate to have her, the human official nodded. She would have appreciated you saying that. She always believed the Korthax could change. She died believing she was right. Forthaxes, commententus. She was right, the Korthax said simply. We did change, because she gave us no other choice, and in the end, because she gave us a path to something better than endless war. The coffin was lowered into the ground beside the memorial wall. On her gravestone, they carved words she had spoken often in her later years. Peace is not the absence of war. It is the conscious choice to build something better. And across the galaxy, on dozens of worlds, human and Korthax and others looked at those words and understood their truth. Humanity had been given a choice: mercy or vengeance, justice or extinction, peace or eternal war. They chose mercy when they could. They chose justice when they must. And they built a peace that lasted, because that's what humanity does. They fight when necessary. They show mercy when possible. And they never, ever give up on the possibility of something better. The wars were over. The peace had begun. And the galaxy was changed forever.